What's going on, crypto sports fans? My name is Clay Albright, and today I'm here with David Pence of WhatsminerMicroBT.com, and he's going to share with us a little bit about what's called overclocking. If you're not familiar with it, tune in. This is pretty cool. If you're a Bitcoin miner or you want to be in the Bitcoin mining space, very important to understand. But please share with me and this is specifically Whatsminer overclocking, right?
That's right. So the big deal for 2020 was the M30S came out, fastest machine in the world. Then here's the M30S Plus. It's the latest machine from MicroBT, and it's the 88 terahash was the fastest with the M30S. This is 100 terahash for the M30S Plus, and in July there's an M30S Plus that's coming out that's 112 terahash. Okay, so in our world, 88, 100, and 112 are the three models.
Okay.
So, and you also have to realize that is the clock speed in the air. And in the air is, here's a fan, there's a bunch of air flying through there. This machine is set up to do air cooled. So we call it air cooled, liquid cooled. And oh, by the way, there are two types of liquid cooled. There are single phase liquid, which is, it's in fluid moving through it like a fish tank kind of thing. And then there is dual phase. And dual phase is where liquid is dropped onto it. The liquid is a special kind that evaporates and takes the heat up to a cooling element, and the cooling element, like a refrigerator coil, cools that specialized liquid, and it takes the heat out via the cooling in the coil, and then the liquid drops back down and hits the chips again, and it's like a constant rainstorm.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of interesting to watch stuff on the other planets.
I've never seen that.
There's other planets and moons in our solar system, and they're like, oh, well, this one's raining mercury, or this one's raining carbon dioxide or something. You're like, carbon dioxide's in the air. Yeah, here it is, but there it's raining at liquid or something. It's just different.
Sure.
Well, it's just a different cooling process to do dual phase. So, the future is air-cooled is the current world, but it's 2020. 2010, air-cooled was all we had. In 2015, there was this new thing called liquid cooling. By 2020, guess what? A lot of people are moving to liquid cooling. By 2030, I doubt you'll be able to buy a machine. I believe it or not, I don't think you're going to be able to buy a server that goes into Google or goes into Amazon or goes into Microsoft's data centers. I think you'll have to special order servers with fans on them in 2030.
Because they're intended to be liquid cooled.
They'll all come liquid cooled. You'll be able to fit so many of them in such a tight space, and it's more efficient.
10 years,
Yeah. 2030, it'd be like your kids going, what's a cord do on a phone? Right? 10 or 20 years ago, we're like, oh, I saw a phone with a cord on it,
Right.
But now,
and the big thing, liquid cooled, big thing would be what? The dissipation of the heat? Quicker, faster?
It's a more dense space. You can put more equipment in a smaller space, save 5, 10, 20x. So take a rack of servers. You have a rack, like that tall black rack, and it's 70. I think it's 72U is a 1U server.
Yes.
A rack-mounted 19-inch server is 1U tall. I think that's 1.75 inches. Anyway, 42U is a full-size rack. Well, if you could put 42U worth of equipment in a rack, which is what people do, that's great. Well, imagine being able to put 10 times that amount of equipment in that same vertical rack. So if you're an Amazon data center and you're like, so you're telling me I don't have to acquire additional space? I can just shove 10 times as much computing power into the same space?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Oh, by the way, it's cheaper to cool it because I'm using liquids to cool it. Liquid moves, it's about 1,200 times as dense as air. So it actually moves 1,200 times the heat off of a chip as air does. So air is this whoosh, or you've got ocean's waves blowing over it. Which one works better, right?
Makes sense, yeah, for sure. Now, when you said this was 100 terahash, that's out of the box, right?
Stock in the air, it's 100 terahash.
Stock, that's a good word. I like that, stock. So that means we can
overclock it.
We can overclock it.
So there are other brands that have been around longer, right? And there are other people who have taken them apart and changed the firmware. And I remember I used to do GPU mining, and there were vendors out there, there was guys out there that were overclock it. And you could take your GPU, if you were mining Ethereum as an example, and you could take your GPU or your 6 or 8 GPUs on a board, and you could say, hey, I'm going to overclock them 10, 15, 20%. And then the firmware manufacturer who gave you the custom firmware to overclock it,
Yeah.
he would say, look, I'm going to take a 2% dev fee, a developer fee, of your entire hash rate of your Ethereum rig. I'm going to take 2% because I just made you 20% better. So you're 120%, but I'm getting 2% of that 120%.
I'll be darned.
And it's very standard. I did it all the time. Even when we were still running Bitmain machines here back in the day in our facility, we had S9s and they were running at 13.5 terahash. That was the king daddy. 13, that's 100.
Right.
And these were running 13.5, but it was a big deal to go 14 was a big deal. 15 was a big deal.
Yeah.
So we were overclocking ours at like 16 or 17, and we were paying a dev fee out to the people who modified the firmware. Well, the new kid on the block, the fastest machines in the world, they're getting so popular now that it's attracting additional customizations, right?
Aftermarket.
Aftermarket. Yeah, take this Chevy and put some aftermarket.
That's right.
So this new Chevy is got some aftermarket stuff coming, and it's not quite there yet, but we're telling you that especially for some of our larger customer installations who are willing to have, some test beds and stuff like that. And by the end of the year, this will be standard stuff. But right now, I wanted to give you guys a precursor of some of the data that we're seeing, because everybody wants to know the data.
Please, yes.
So here's the deal. This is an M30S Plus. Just imagine there's an M30 sitting here, and maybe this is an M30S Plus Plus. Remember, 88, 100, and 112 is what they run in the air.
Okay.
Well, our engineers have been able to get the 88 running at about 104, okay? It's pretty good. That's faster than this.
I was just going to say, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and so they've been able to get this one to run at about 116, which is faster than this. And this one doesn't exist yet, so we don't know what we can get the 112 to do.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's June. In July, we'll be getting our first M30S Plus Pluses, and we'll be able to let you know, another video from now, we'll give you some updated figures.
Perfect.
But let me just tell you that the 104 and the 116, that's in the air, maximum, extreme. You have to have the right air going into these machines. It's not like you're going to set that out on some Texas prairie with 1,000 of them stacked side by side. So hold on. So let me just say that 104 and 116 are probably not. I have 1,000 of them in a hot data center, and I've taken these 88s and they're running at 104. But could you take these 88s and properly condition them and change the filters correctly and have it well managed and run them at 100 all day long in the air?
In the air, wow.
So a neat way to think about it is this 88 can be set to run like this.
Okay.
This can be set to be run like this one. This could probably run at 116, yeah, but not really. But 112 all day long, okay? And then what we think is going to happen, if you run liquid cooling, like immersion cooling, then the 88, the 100, the 112, the 88 runs like the 100 in the air. The 100 runs like the 112 in the air. Well, with liquid cooling, with single phase, liquid cooling, this 88 can run at the 104 I talked about in liquid. Okay. So you can get the 104 even if you stack them real close together.
Okay.
And this one can get the 116, okay?
I got you.
We don't know about that one, but here's the final. We're excited that this is going to be another video, but we're just excited to tell you that there's also some awesome innovation going along with two-phase. And two-phase is this part that drips that I was telling you about. And we're not sure, but we think maybe we might be able to get the 88 to run like the 112.
Oh my God.
And the 100 to run like the one that doesn't even exist yet.
The one that doesn't exist yet. Oh my God. Well, there's still one. How do you actually do the overclocking? What makes that available for the user? I mean, how does that work?
Okay, so this is a great question. So, the firmware is the BIOS, the basic input-output system of the machine. There are 3 cards in here called daughter cards that they're hash boards. Another reason there's three hash boards underneath this power supply inside this silver.
1, 2, 3 kind of thing,
yep.
like that. Okay.
Yep. Underneath the power supply, there's 3 in there.
In here.
And they have a bunch of chips on the daughter cards or the hash boards. And then the firmware is shipped by the manufacturer And it does do some auto tuning. It tries to say, oh, it's cold outside, it's warm outside, the fans are at this RPM or that's RPM. When you hear these particular ones turn on, the fans are and it's determining its environment a little bit.
Okay.
But guess what? The manufacturer wants to make sure that this thing's going to work within warranty all over the world in every condition. So when you go buy a Chevy, whatever,
That's right.
it's set up the same way.
That's right.
Oh, do you want to race the Chevy?
That's right.
Oh, do you want to hypermile the Chevy?
Okay.
You can hypermile your Chevy and get double the gas
So
mileage.
it has more juice.
You can tune it.
You can tune it.
So the firmwares that are being produced by developers are able to tune for a little more strength if you want it.
Okay. Well, that's pretty neat.
That's pretty awesome,
Yeah,
right?
that's pretty
So
awesome.
just like anything else, I mean, guys have hot rodded. There are guys I know who are massive gamers, right? And they'll take the best video cards on the market. They're not mining at all. They just take dual or quad video cards in their gamer PC, and they tune the firmware of their game, the GPUs, for video game playing. Because if they can get an extra frame rate or 2 per second, you know, and they can turn this much faster because the screen updated faster and they killed you quicker. That's the way it works.
Right, right.
So people are tuning stuff all over the world. This is not unusual.
Sure.
So I just think that it's pretty neat that the new king of the hill for the last 3 or 4 years has been the Whatsminer. It's the most stable machine in the world, and now it's getting some aftermarket stuff like you talked about.
And you mentioned earlier, it says here it was 3,300
Watts,
but it actually is capable of
3750.
3,750.
Or more. Or more. Or more.
Very cool.
Let me tell you, I know it's more. Okay? But I know that the manufacturer has stated publicly,
Right.
MicroBT has said, these are capable of 3750.
Okay.
Right? That's on the internet,
Right.
where the manufacturer said, these do 3750. And we're
And
like,
they are
and we're like, oh
always-
yeah, and more.
I was just say they have always proven themselves to be conservative when it comes to their estimates too.
And think outside of the box. To get an 88 to run at 100 or 104, okay, you got to do some stuff. To get it to run at 112, you may not be using that power supply. You may have to do a new power supply. So if you start thinking outside of the box,
Yeah,
and the
good
same
point.
thing with the guy with the gamer who's got the fast game rate.
Right.
You think he's using the stock PSU power supply unit that came with his desktop PC? Heck no. He has juiced everything to get that machine to do the right thing. So it may be that you need to do that too, but guess what? All that stuff's available. There are power supply manufacturers out there that will give you a 5,000-6,000 watt power supply for your miner if you want it.
I'll be darned.
How many people in the world do you think are overclocking their stuff with different power supplies? The percentage is probably the same number of guys who go buy a desktop PC and turn it into an ultra power machine. It's probably like, you know, a couple
Few.
percent.
Yeah. Not too many, but they're benefiting from it for sure.
Well, we're learning and we're having fun, and this is an awesome product to be the overclock king.
Absolutely, and thank you for explaining the overclocking thing. That makes a ton of sense. And thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you guys subscribing if you can down below, as well. Leave some comments if you have any questions, and visit us at whatsminermicrobt.com. We'll see you next time.